Discipline is often seen as a solo pursuit, a matter of grit, willpower, and personal drive. We imagine the disciplined person as someone who wakes up early, works out alone, quietly builds success in the shadows, and never complains. The hero who never asks for help. But that image is more myth than truth. Because if you look closely at anyone who has built lasting, meaningful discipline, you'll find they didn't do it alone. Accountability was woven into their process, not as a crutch, but as a catalyst. When we rely solely on ourselves, we're operating in a vacuum. We make silent promises that no one hears, so when we break them, no one notices except us. And even then, we rationalize our way out. It wasn't that important. I'll start tomorrow. No one's watching anyway. Slowly, silently, our standards erode. Not because we're lazy, but because we're human. We get tired. We get distracted. We fall into old patterns. That's where accountability comes in, not to shame us, but to stabilize us. It adds structure where emotion wants to take over. Accountability works because it makes your goals visible. It puts your intentions into the world. Once you say it out loud, write it down, or tell someone you trust, your brain treats it differently. It's no longer an internal whisper, it's a public commitment. That shift alone elevates your follow-through. You begin to act, not just from motivation, but from responsibility. Not just to yourself, but to the agreement you made. This isn't about being watched constantly or handing over your autonomy. It's about having the humility to say, I'm serious enough about this goal that I'm willing to be held to it. That's a sign of maturity, not weakness. When you invite accountability, you remove the option to hide. You're choosing visibility, ownership, growth. In this audiobook, we're going to explore the real mechanics of accountability, not as a motivational gimmick, but as a proven discipline builder. We'll look at how to structure it in your life, how to choose the right people to hold you accountable, and how to transition from relying on others to developing deep internal standards. You'll learn how to handle resistance, bounce back from slips, and most importantly, how to stop leaving your growth up to chance. Because here's the truth. Discipline built in isolation is fragile, but discipline built through accountability becomes unbreakable. It survives the hard days. It holds steady when motivation fades. And eventually, it becomes part of who you are, not just what you do. So if you've ever felt stuck, inconsistent, or alone in your goals, this is your turning point. You don't have to fight your battles in silence anymore. You can build something stronger, steadier, and more sustainable. Not alone, but with structure, with support, and with systems that work. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Accountability, Discipline Connection. Discipline is often thought of as a purely internal force, a matter of sheer will. And while inner strength plays a role, it's not the full picture. The truth is, discipline thrives when paired with accountability. One strengthens the other. When you commit to action and know that someone or something will hold you to it, the odds of follow-through skyrocket. Think about a time you made a silent promise to yourself. Maybe you said you'd wake up early to work on a goal, go to the gym, or finish a project. But when no one else knew about it, skipping that commitment felt less like failure and more like a shrug. I'll get to it tomorrow. There's no external consequence, no social cost. And so, the promise fades. Now, imagine you told a trusted friend you'd meet them at the gym at 6 a.m., or told your coach you'd submit your draft by Friday. Suddenly, not showing up has weight. There's friction. Accountability introduces just enough discomfort to force a choice. And often, that slight pressure is all it takes to follow through. This isn't about fear or shame. It's about structure. Accountability is the scaffolding that holds up your intentions until they harden into habits. It's the outer force that supports your inner drive. With it, you're more likely to take action, not because you suddenly have more willpower, but because you've made it harder to hide. In psychology, this is tied to the concept of social expectation. We are wired to care about how we are perceived. When others are aware of our goals, we experience what's known as anticipatory accountability. We imagine having to explain ourselves, and that's often enough to prompt better behavior. But accountability does something deeper too. It helps shape identity. When you show up consistently, because you told someone you would, your brain starts connecting the dots. I'm the kind of person who honors commitments. That belief, over time, becomes a new identity. And identity-based discipline is the most sustainable kind. Elite performers in any field understand this. Athletes have coaches and teammates. Entrepreneurs have mentors and boards. Writers have editors. The most disciplined people are not operating in a vacuum. They are surrounded by systems that demand consistency, not because they're weak, but because they're wise. One of the major misconceptions about discipline is that it's a solo sport, when in fact, it's a team game. Not a team in the traditional sense, but a team of support, systems, routines, environments, and yes, people. Accountability creates a rhythm in your life. It makes certain behaviors expected and normalized. It removes decision fatigue by creating anchors throughout your day. When expectations are clear and consistent, discipline becomes less of a daily struggle and more of a routine expression of who you are. Let's consider the neuroscience of behavior. The brain is a pattern-making machine. When a habit is repeated under consistent conditions, say, every morning at 7 a.m., you check in with a partner about your writing progress. The brain wires that cue, routine, and reward into a habit loop. Over time, the loop becomes automatic. And because accountability adds a layer of urgency and attention, it accelerates that process. This isn't just theory. It's observable in high-performance environments. In elite military units, accountability is embedded into every layer of behavior. Miss a deadline, skip a drill, fail to prepare, and someone will know. That knowing changes how you act. It makes the stakes feel real, but it also creates camaraderie. When people are working toward high standards together, discipline becomes a shared value. Outside of high-pressure environments, you can still recreate this effect in your life. It begins with a simple question: who are you answerable to? If your answer is no one, you've just identified your first leverage point. Accountability doesn't have to be complicated. A weekly phone call, a shared calendar, a public goal post. What matters is that it makes your intention visible, trackable, and respected. The more accountability loops you create, the more resilient your discipline becomes. Not just because others are watching, but because you start watching yourself differently. When you step into accountability, you start living as if your actions matter. You begin to plan more thoughtfully, act more consistently, and recover more quickly from setbacks. In other words, you stop negotiating with your lower self. Accountability also shifts your relationship with time. Without it, we operate in ambiguity. Days blend together, and our goals get pushed forward endlessly. But when you introduce regular check-ins or tracking, even just 10 minutes of reflection at the end of each day, you create what's known as temporal integrity. You honor the passage of time by using it deliberately. That awareness reinforces discipline like few other tools can. Another powerful layer of accountability is peer accountability. This is when progress is tracked alongside someone on a similar journey. It introduces not just expectations, but healthy competition, mutual encouragement, and emotional support. You celebrate wins together and problem-solve failures as a unit. In that context, you're less likely to give up, not because you're afraid of judgment, but because you've built trust and shared momentum. That social reinforcement taps into our natural desire to contribute and belong. And finally, internal accountability. The highest form grows when we consistently show up for external commitments. Over time, the need for external pressure decreases as our internal compass strengthens. You begin to hold yourself to the same standards even when no one else is watching. That is the ultimate goal: to make discipline intrinsic, not imposed. Building that internal compass doesn't happen overnight. It's forged in the micro moments, the decision to follow through even when it's inconvenient, the choice to report progress even when you're behind, the act of returning to the path after slipping. These are the invisible reps that strengthen discipline and build trust with yourself. And trust, once earned, becomes the bedrock of sustainable performance. Moreover, accountability encourages reflection. When you're accountable to someone, even if it's a journal or a progress log, you're more likely to ask questions. What worked? What didn't? What will I do differently next time? That self-inquiry, multiplied over weeks and months, leads to personal insight and smarter strategy. You stop spinning your wheels and start steering with intention. Ultimately, accountability invites you into ownership. Ownership of your choices, your effort, your outcomes. It says, no one else is responsible for this, and that's empowering. It shifts you from being a passive reactor to an active creator of your life. That is what builds unbreakable discipline, not perfection, but full participation in your growth. So, if you're struggling with discipline, don't assume it's a character flaw. Don't blame yourself for lacking willpower. Ask instead, what's missing from my accountability system? Who knows what I'm trying to do? What structures are in place to keep me honest? Because when discipline and accountability move together, your consistency becomes inevitable. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how to implement that system into your life. We'll break down different forms of accountability, how to build structures that don't rely on motivation, and how to eventually internalize those standards so they become second nature. But for now, hold on to this truth. Discipline is your engine, accountability is your fuel, and when both are present, you don't just move forward, you accelerate. Chapter 2. Why we resist accountability. If accountability is so effective, if it really does enhance discipline, sharpen follow-through, and accelerate results, then why don't more people embrace it? Why do we hide from it, avoid it, or even resent it? The answer is both psychological and deeply human. Accountability, while powerful, challenges our ego, threatens our comfort, and exposes us to discomfort we'd rather not face. At its core, accountability requires vulnerability. It asks us to say out loud, here's what I want, here's what I'm working on, and here's what I need help staying consistent with. That level of honesty is uncomfortable, especially if we've been burned by past failures. Admitting we need accountability can feel like admitting we can't be trusted to follow through, and that bruises the self-image many of us carry. There's also the fear of judgment. When we share our goals or commit publicly, we create a situation where others can see whether we succeed or fail. That visibility can feel terrifying. What if we fall short? What if we don't meet expectations? To protect ourselves from potential embarrassment, we often keep our goals to ourselves. We tell no one, hoping to quietly succeed without risking humiliation. But that same silence also steals our urgency. No one knows. No one expects. No one holds us to it, not even us. Underneath that fear lies another force: control. Accountability introduces external expectations, and for some, that feels like a threat to autonomy. We equate independence with freedom, forgetting that discipline without structure often leads to inconsistency. The truth is, the most free people are those who create clear systems and allow others to help them stay within them. Accountability isn't control from others. It's a contract you willingly enter to strengthen your resolve, not weaken your will. Then there's pride. Many people resist accountability because they associate it with weakness. I should be able to do this on my own, we think. If I really cared, I wouldn't need someone checking in on me. But that mindset ignores how human behavior actually works. We are social creatures. We thrive with structure. We falter in isolation. Needing accountability doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to use what works. Let's not forget the fear of change. Accountability forces us to confront our habits, our excuses, and our patterns of avoidance. It pulls us out of the fog and into the light. And sometimes that light is harsh. When you track your time and realize how much you waste scrolling, or when you make a promise to a mentor and break it, the reflection can sting. But that sting is necessary. It awakens awareness. It creates contrast. Without that awareness, change remains impossible. There's also a fear of success. As strange as it sounds, some people resist accountability because deep down, they're afraid of what it means to finally follow through. If you've been stuck for years, inaction becomes familiar. Progress is foreign. And with progress comes new responsibilities, new standards, and new expectations both from yourself and from others. Accountability speeds up the rate of success, and that can be overwhelming if your identity isn't ready to evolve with it. In some cases, we avoid accountability because we've had negative experiences with it in the past. Maybe someone shamed us instead of supporting us. Maybe we were micromanaged, criticized, or made to feel small. These experiences create emotional scars, and understandably, we hesitate to re-enter that space. But healthy accountability isn't about control or punishment. It's about encouragement, structure, and shared commitment. It's important to redefine what accountability means and rebuild trust with the process. There's also the matter of effort. Accountability requires planning, communication, and follow-through. You have to show up. You have to check in. You have to be willing to engage even when you're tired or discouraged. It's easier, in the short term, to operate alone, to coast without consequence. But that short-term ease leads to long-term frustration. Without accountability, our progress stalls. We repeat the same goals year after year, wondering why nothing sticks. Lastly, we resist accountability because it removes excuses. When no one's watching, it's easy to say, "I didn't have time," or "I'll do it tomorrow." But when someone else is holding space for your commitment, your excuses don't land the same way. You're forced to be honest not just with them, but with yourself. And honesty can be uncomfortable when it calls out our patterns of self-sabotage. But we also need to consider the cultural context. In a society that prizes independence and self-sufficiency, the idea of needing others can feel countercultural. From a young age, we're taught to be self-starters, to stand on our own, to push forward no matter what. This can create a distorted image of success, one where needing help is equated with inadequacy. The truth, however, is that no significant achievement in history happened without some form of accountability or collaboration. Whether it's a mentor, a team, a coach, or a community, greatness is rarely achieved in isolation. Technology can also contribute to our resistance. In a world of instant gratification and algorithm-driven feedback, it's easy to create the illusion of progress without making real change. We post goals online, get a few likes, and feel accomplished. But virtual approval is not the same as grounded accountability. The dopamine hit fades, and nothing has actually moved. Real accountability is slower, deeper, and often quieter. It's not about performance, it's about progress. To embrace accountability, we must also confront perfectionism. Many people resist being held accountable because they believe they must be perfect before they're seen. They don't want to share until their work is polished, their plan is airtight, or they're certain they won't fail. But that's not accountability, that's avoidance. True accountability welcomes the messy middle. It says, "I'm in process, I'm imperfect, but I'm committed." We also resist because we underestimate our capacity for growth. Deep down, many of us don't believe we can change. And if we think we'll fail anyway, what's the point of being accountable? This is where the power of small wins comes in. When you experience even tiny progress in the presence of someone else, it rewires your self-belief. You start to think, "Maybe I can." And from there, the door to consistent action swings open. So what can we do about this resistance? First, we can normalize it. It's okay to feel hesitant. It's okay to have fears about being seen, being judged, or being challenged. Those fears don't make you unworthy, they make you human. What matters is not that you feel resistance, but that you don't let it dictate your growth. Second, we can reframe accountability. Instead of seeing it as a burden, see it as a bridge, a tool that connects intention with action. It's not about control, it's about clarity. It's not about weakness, it's about wisdom. Accountability is how we stop drifting and start directing. Third, we can start small. You don't need to share your biggest dreams with the world on day one. You can begin with one trusted person, one small commitment, one weekly check-in, and as your confidence grows, so will your capacity to be seen and supported more fully. Finally, we can remember that accountability is a gift. When someone agrees to walk with you, to care enough about your goals, to hold you to them, that is an act of love. And when you offer that to yourself through systems, tracking, and structure, you are declaring that your goals matter, that you matter. Accountability doesn't shrink you. It strengthens you. It removes the weight of having to carry everything alone. It invites collaboration, clarity, and consistency. And when you embrace it, you begin to build a version of yourself who not only dreams, but delivers. In the next chapter, we'll explore exactly how to set up systems of accountability that are effective, supportive, and sustainable. We'll move from theory to practice, from resistance to momentum, because once you get past the fear, you'll find that accountability isn't something to avoid. It's something to build with. Chapter 3. The different forms of accountability. Now that we understand the resistance to accountability, it's time to explore the many forms it can take. Accountability isn't one size fits all, and that's a good thing. Just as discipline can be tailored to fit your lifestyle and personality, accountability can and should be shaped to suit your needs, values, and context. The first form of accountability, and often the most foundational, is self-accountability, This is the internal commitment you make to yourself, grounded in your own values, goals, and vision. Self-accountability requires self-honesty, self-reflection, and self-discipline. It means you track your own progress, set your own standards, and hold yourself to them. Journaling, habit tracking, setting personal deadlines, these are tools that empower internal accountability. But self-accountability, while powerful, has limits. Especially in moments of fatigue, doubt, or overwhelm, it can become easier to rationalize procrastination or let things slide. That's why external forms of accountability become essential. Relational accountability, is one of the most impactful. This is when you share your goals with another person, a mentor, a friend, a coach, or a peer, and give them permission to check in, challenge you, and encourage your follow-through. These relationships thrive on trust and clarity. You agree in advance what kind of support you need: reminders, encouragement, tough love, or thoughtful questions. When done well, relational accountability doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like partnership. Another powerful model is group accountability, Think of mastermind groups, fitness classes, or study cohorts. There's something transformative about committing to growth alongside others who are on a similar path. The shared energy, the stories, the celebrations, the setbacks, they all create a sense of collective momentum. Group accountability doesn't just keep you consistent. It reminds you that you're not alone. There's also systemic accountability, which includes structures and environments you design to keep you aligned. This might be digital tools that track your habits, alarms or calendar reminders, productivity apps, or workspace designs that reduce friction and trigger focus. When you create systems that reflect your intentions, you give your future self less room to negotiate. Instead of relying on willpower in the moment, you rely on pre-planned structure. Don't overlook public accountability, the kind where you declare your commitment to others outside your immediate circle. This might look like sharing a challenge online, announcing your goal to a group, or even publishing a deadline. While it's not for everyone, public accountability can spark urgency and intention. The act of being seen and heard, even by strangers, can serve as a powerful anchor for discipline. And finally, there is professional accountability, where you intentionally hire or invest in someone to hold you accountable. A coach, trainer, therapist, or advisor brings both expertise and structured follow-up. The dynamic is different from that of a friend. There's an added layer of intentionality, objectivity, and sometimes even a financial investment. Paying for accountability isn't a sign of weakness, it's a declaration that your goals matter enough to be supported professionally. Each of these forms has strengths and challenges. Self-accountability builds inner strength, but can falter in isolation. Relational accountability provides emotional connection, but requires vulnerability and trust. Group accountability creates momentum, but might dilute personal ownership. Systemic accountability reduces decision fatigue, but can be undermined if you don't take it seriously. Public accountability increases visibility and urgency, but risks performative behavior. Professional accountability offers expertise and structure, but demands a financial or time investment. The key is not to pick one and ignore the rest. It's to combine them strategically. Many of the most disciplined individuals use a blend of accountability forms to stay grounded and grow. For example, someone may use a habit tracker, self, check in weekly with a coach, professional, attend a mastermind group, and share monthly goals online, public. The variety ensures that when one layer weakens, the others support it. Also, your accountability needs will shift with the seasons of your life. During high-pressure periods, you may lean more on professional or group support. During moments of reflection and solitude, self-accountability may take the lead. What matters is not perfection, but alignment, making sure your accountability systems reflect where you are and where you're going. Consider too that accountability can be both formal and informal. Formal structures involve scheduled check-ins, progress reviews, and clearly defined benchmarks. Informal accountability might come from casual conversations, gentle nudges from close friends, or even the quiet look of encouragement from a partner who knows your goals. Both play important roles, and both contribute to consistency in their own way. Cultural and social environments also influence which forms of accountability resonate with us most. In some communities, collective responsibility and peer involvement are natural. In others, privacy and independence are prioritized. Recognizing this helps you design a system that respects your identity while still pushing you forward. Accountability doesn't require that you become someone else. It invites you to grow into the person you've said you want to become. Moreover, accountability can be tied to purpose. When you link your systems to something larger than yourself, a mission, a legacy, a cause, the stakes become real. You're not just showing up for your checklist. You're showing up for the people you serve, the example you want to set, or the story you're writing with your life. That emotional connection fuels discipline in a way that no app or deadline ever could. And as you develop your systems, consider the emotional tone you want accountability to carry. Does it feel encouraging or punishing, empowering or shame-based? Sustainable accountability is rooted in compassion, not criticism. The goal isn't to make you feel bad for falling short, it's to help you rise again with more clarity, more support, and more resilience. So how do you begin building a balanced accountability system? Start by reflecting on your past. When were you most consistent with a goal? Who or what helped you stay on track? What kind of accountability made you feel supported rather than stressed? Then consider your current goals. Which forms of accountability would challenge you to stretch, and which would nurture your consistency? You don't have to implement everything at once. Begin with one form. Create one layer. Build from there. What matters most is that you begin. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to actually build those systems, combining clarity, structure, and support into daily practice. Because understanding the forms of accountability is only the beginning. Learning how to use them consistently and strategically is where transformation truly begins. Chapter 4. How to build an accountability system that works. Understanding the different forms of accountability is like learning the tools in a toolbox. But now comes the real work, building something with them. In this chapter, we turn theory into practice. We design an accountability system that fits your life, reinforces your discipline, and helps you stay committed even when things get difficult. The most effective accountability systems begin with clarity. Before you can build anything reliable, you have to define what success looks like for you. Vague goals lead to vague commitments. Clear goals lead to clear action. So ask yourself, what exactly am I holding myself accountable for? What's the behavior, habit, or outcome I want to make non-negotiable? For instance, if your goal is to exercise consistently, don't stop at work out more. That's too open-ended. Specify, I will work out for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, at 7 a.m. Suddenly, you have a standard you can measure, track, and build around. The more specific you are, the easier it becomes to structure your accountability. Once clarity is in place, the next step is structure. A strong accountability system relies on repeatable processes, routines that turn your intentions into actions. This might include scheduling weekly check-ins, using a habit tracker, setting up reminders, or outlining consequences for missed actions. Think of this as building scaffolding around your goal. You're giving it support so it doesn't collapse under pressure. The structure you choose should reflect your personality. Some people thrive on spreadsheets and data. Others prefer conversation and storytelling. The goal isn't to become someone else, it's to build a system you'll actually use. Your accountability tools should meet you where you are and gently challenge you to grow. Next comes support. No accountability system thrives in isolation. Whether it's one trusted friend or a team of like-minded peers, you need others to reflect your progress back to you. This could mean finding an accountability partner, joining a group, or hiring a coach. Choose someone who respects your goals and isn't afraid to ask the hard questions. The best accountability partners are honest, consistent, and growth-minded. Support also includes emotional support, not just logistical help. It's important to build your system with compassion. You will have days when you fall short. That's not a failure of discipline, it's part of the process. A good system accounts for that. It allows for reflection, recommitment, and learning, rather than punishment and shame. Layer your accountability system by combining internal and external methods. Start with self-accountability, your journal entries, habit logs, morning check-ins. Then add relational accountability, a weekly call with a partner or coach. Overlay that with environmental design, your workspace, phone settings, calendar blocks. These layers protect your focus and keep your goals top of mind. You can also gamify your accountability. Add small rewards for consistency or create personal consequences for falling off track. For instance, donate to a cause you oppose if you miss a key deadline. While this may sound extreme, it's about building stakes, making the cost of inaction just high enough to matter. Automation is another powerful tool. The more you can automate your accountability, the less reliant you become on daily willpower. Apps that log your progress, reminders that nudge you into action, or subscription-based programs that send you updates and track your stats. All of these remove friction from the process. The less effort it takes to stay accountable, the more consistent you'll become. And don't forget about reflection. The best accountability systems include a feedback loop. Every week or month, ask, what worked, what didn't, where did I drift? What can I adjust? Discipline isn't just about doing, it's about learning. A reflective practice ensures you're growing, not just grinding. An often overlooked part of building an effective accountability system is designing for disruption. Life will interrupt your routines. A crisis will hit. Motivation will fade. If your system only works under perfect conditions, it's not a system, it's a wish. So ask yourself, what's my backup plan when I get tired, when I travel, when I fail? Plan for failure so that it doesn't become the end, it just becomes a detour. It's also helpful to create what's called an accountability map. This is a simple diagram or document that shows all the parts of your system in one place. It might include your goal, key behaviors, deadlines, check-in partners, tools, and fallback strategies. Think of it as your accountability dashboard. When you feel lost or off track, return to the map. It grounds you. Also consider how your accountability system fits into your lifestyle rhythms. If you're naturally more energized in the mornings, structure your most critical habits early. If you're often distracted after work, make that time less vulnerable by scheduling accountability calls or blocking distractions. The point is to reduce friction where you're weakest and build momentum where you're strongest. It's also valuable to integrate emotion into your accountability system. When your goal is tied to something you care deeply about, you're more likely to stick with it. Attach your habits to your identity, your values, or someone you love. For example, instead of, "I want to save money," try, "I want to build financial freedom so I can care for my family." That shift turns accountability from a task into a mission. Make your system visible. Post your goals where you can see them. Use visual trackers. Share your intentions out loud. The more often you interact with your system, the more present it stays in your daily awareness. If your accountability system lives only in your head or on page 9 of a dusty journal, it's too easy to ignore. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledge progress, even when it's not perfect. Progress builds motivation, and motivation, when nurtured by a system, transforms into discipline. Your accountability system should feel like a tool that helps you win, not a cage that reminds you of failure. Remember, your accountability system should evolve. What works in the early stages of a goal may not be what you need 6 months in. As your confidence and consistency grow, you can shift the weight from external to internal. That's the ultimate sign of progress, when you no longer need someone to check in because your standards have become self-sustaining. But don't rush that transition. Use accountability until discipline is deeply ingrained. There is no shame in needing reminders, nudges, or support. Even elite performers, athletes, CEOs, artists rely on coaches and systems to stay sharp. Accountability isn't a substitute for discipline, it's the training ground for it. Finally, don't let complexity become an excuse. You don't need a perfect system to begin. Start simple. One goal, one accountability method, one check-in routine. As you build momentum, you can expand. What matters most is that you take accountability seriously, not as a motivational gimmick, but as the foundation for a disciplined life. Because when you build a system that reflects your commitment, it changes how you see yourself. You move from trying to doing, from hoping to owning, from drifting to directing. And that's where real transformation begins. Chapter 5. Accountability in Action, Real Life Applications. Accountability sounds great in theory, but how does it actually look in everyday life? What does it mean to live accountability, not just talk about it? In this chapter, we move from systems and frameworks to application, real-life stories, contexts, and strategies that show what accountability looks like in action. Because it's not about perfection. It's about consistency in the face of resistance and clarity when you could easily drift. Let's start with the workplace. One of the most obvious places where accountability matters and often fails. In a professional setting, deadlines, team goals, and performance reviews are common tools used to create external accountability. But what separates thriving professionals from those who coast isn't the presence of these tools, it's their relationship with them. High performers treat deadlines as promises, not suggestions. They don't just respond to oversight, they create their own internal checkpoints. For example, a product manager might break down a 2-month project into weekly mini deadlines and report progress to their team, even if no one is asking. Or consider a writer trying to finish a book. Writing is a solitary endeavor, and without accountability, progress can stall for months or years. Some of the most prolific authors build systems of accountability to stay on track. They join writers' groups, hire coaches, or set public deadlines. Stephen King famously writes every day without fail, a form of internal accountability. Others post word counts publicly or commit to publishing a chapter by a set date. The point isn't the method. The point is that progress becomes visible and pressure, even mild, becomes useful. In health and fitness, accountability can be the difference between someone sticking to their plan or falling off after a week. Real change happens when accountability becomes embedded into daily behavior. Take the example of someone trying to lose weight. They might start by logging meals, sharing progress with a friend, or committing to a weekly weigh-in. Over time, they might realize that it's not the weigh-in that matters, it's the reflection that happens after. They ask, did I stay on track? What triggered a lapse? How will I adjust this week? In relationships, accountability shows up in more subtle but equally powerful ways. It's not about tracking behaviors with a spreadsheet. It's about being honest. A partner who says they'll work on being more present at home might ask for regular feedback from their spouse. They don't wait for conflict, they create space for dialogue. A parent working on anger might apologize when they slip, reinforcing to their child that accountability is a strength, not a weakness. Even in financial goals, accountability makes a massive difference. A young professional saving for a house might work with a financial advisor, use budgeting apps, and set up auto transfers to savings. They might even create a public savings goal, sharing updates with friends to stay on track. When temptation comes, that expensive vacation, the latest gadget, they remember the system they've put in place and the people they've involved. In these real-world contexts, accountability does one crucial thing. It converts intention into behavior. It closes the gap between what we say we'll do and what we actually do. Without accountability, life is full of well-meaning plans that never materialize. With it, even modest goals can lead to profound transformation. Let's also talk about failure. Because accountability isn't just about staying on track, it's about coming back when you fall off. Consider the entrepreneur whose first business flops. Without accountability, they might spiral into self-blame or avoidance. With it, they're more likely to debrief, reflect, and rebuild. A mastermind group, a coach, or even a journal becomes the space where they ask hard questions. What did I miss? What would I do differently? Who can I talk to about this? That process doesn't erase the setback, it redeems it. In education, accountability drives learning. A student who sets up a study group is more likely to stay consistent than one who studies alone. A language learner who commits to weekly practice with a tutor is more likely to improve than someone relying solely on willpower. The key insight here is that discipline grows best in community. When you have to show up for others, your own standard rises. But accountability isn't only for high achievers or structured environments. It's for all of us in daily choices, in quiet decisions, in the goals we keep private. Take someone recovering from addiction. Their accountability might look like a daily call, a 1-2 step sponsor, or writing down triggers and responses. These actions may seem small, but they're massive when you consider what's at stake. In this case, accountability becomes a life-preserving tool, a structure that holds someone steady through chaos. In parenting, A mother might decide to build healthier routines for her family. She sets goals around screen time, meal times, or sleep. Instead of keeping it to herself, she involves her kids. Let's make this a family challenge. Now everyone is on board. The children remind the parent. The parent models follow through. Accountability is shared, not imposed. Sports offer another rich example. Athletes at every level rely on accountability to grow. Whether it's showing up to practice, checking in with a coach, or reviewing game footage, performance improves when feedback is consistent. Serena Williams has credited much of her discipline to the support and push of her coaching team. The accountability isn't just about winning, it's about pushing the boundary of personal bests. Community-based initiatives also reveal the power of collective accountability. Consider neighborhood cleanup projects or local wellness challenges. When individuals unite under a shared commitment with public goals, regular updates, and community support, the level of follow-through increases. Accountability becomes contagious. You see others show up, and you want to show up too. Digital spaces have added new layers to accountability. From social media progress updates to fitness trackers and online forums, individuals can now create real-time accountability with people they've never met in person. A student studying for an exam might stream their study sessions live, both to keep themselves focused and to inspire others. A person training for a marathon may log every run publicly on an app like Strava. These tools serve as mirrors and windows. They reflect our efforts back to us and let others cheer us on. What all these examples have in common is intentionality. Accountability doesn't magically appear. It's created, crafted, maintained. Whether you're running a business, writing a book, rebuilding trust, or transforming your health, accountability works when it's visible, specific, and consistent. The good news is that you don't need a fancy tool or a big team to begin. Start with one action, one habit, one promise made out loud. You might tell a friend, "I'm going to walk every morning for the next 10 days. Can I text you after each walk?" You've now turned a vague intention into a living accountability contract. As you build momentum, your accountability can grow in complexity. You might layer in technology, community, or professional help, but never forget the heart of it. Accountability is a mirror. It reflects who you are and who you're becoming. If you let it, it can transform your self-image. You begin to see yourself not as someone who struggles with consistency, but as someone who shows up, who follows through, who finishes what they start. Accountability in action is where discipline becomes real, not just an idea you like, but a behavior you repeat. It's not always easy. It won't always feel good. But over time, it builds the kind of strength that lasts. And when you can look at your life, your work, your health, your habits, and say, "I did what I said I would do," there's no better confidence than that. That's when accountability stops being a tool and becomes part of your character. Chapter 6. Becoming self-accountable. There is a moment in everyone's personal development journey when they realize something critical. No one is coming to save them. No coach, mentor, system, or tool can replace the internal decision to own your choices, your actions, and your outcomes. This is the essence of self-accountability, a commitment to personal responsibility so deep that you begin to lead yourself even when no one is watching. Self-accountability isn't about self-blame. It's not about being hard on yourself or endlessly scrutinizing every mistake. It's about being honest. It's about owning your role in your successes and your setbacks and being committed to doing something about it. So how do you become self-accountable? It begins with clarity. You cannot hold yourself to a standard you haven't defined. That means setting clear intentions. What do you want to do? Who do you want to become? Vague aspirations like, "I want to be more disciplined," or "I need to be better with time," are too slippery. Self-accountability thrives when your goals are measurable, visible, and emotionally meaningful. Instead of, "I want to be healthier," a self-accountable person says, I'll walk 30 minutes every morning before breakfast for the next 21 days. Then comes the structure. Self-accountability doesn't survive on willpower alone. You need a system that allows for reflection, course correction, and reinforcement. Journaling is one such tool. It allows you to track behavior, notice patterns, and take ownership without external input. Daily check-ins, even a 2-minute review at the end of the day, reinforce commitment and help catch slips before they become habits. But perhaps the most important element is mindset. A self-accountable person does not outsource their excuses. They don't say, "I couldn't because of them," or "I failed because of this situation." They ask, "What was in my control? What could I do differently next time?" This level of ownership doesn't happen overnight. It is trained, just like any other discipline. It's a practice of stepping back, owning your part, and growing from it. Let's look at how this plays out in different areas of life. Take someone who struggles with procrastination. Without self-accountability, they might repeatedly push tasks off, rationalize their delay, and only act under pressure. But with self-accountability, they develop habits that protect them from their own avoidance, like setting hard start times, using time blocking, or breaking work into micro steps. When they slip, they don't justify it. They document it, understand it, and make adjustments. They lead themselves through friction. Or imagine a young entrepreneur who's launching a new business. There's no boss, no deadlines unless they create them. Self-accountability means they act like a professional before anyone is paying attention. They set deadlines for product development. They wake up early to build their vision. They seek feedback even when it's uncomfortable. No one is forcing them, but they move as if someone is, because they've internalized the role of a leader in their own life. In relationships, self-accountability might look like reflecting on your communication patterns. Did you show up as your best self during a disagreement? Or did you react impulsively? Are you honoring your promises, large or small? Do you bring up issues when they arise, or do you let resentment build? Holding yourself to a relational standard isn't about guilt, it's about integrity. There's also the aspect of emotional accountability. This is about owning your emotional responses and triggers. For instance, if you're constantly reactive in stressful situations, self-accountability means you stop blaming the environment and start working on your regulation skills. Meditation, therapy, breathwork. These become tools of ownership, not just self-care. Self-accountability also means developing resilience, the ability to keep going even when motivation is low. This includes preparing for difficult moments in advance. What will you do when you're tired? What's your plan when things don't go as expected? Being proactive is one of the most empowering aspects of internal accountability. You're no longer reactive, you're in command. Another dimension is learning how to track without judgment. Many people avoid self-accountability because they equate reflection with self-criticism. But growth doesn't come from shame, it comes from awareness. A self-accountable person reviews their actions like a scientist, not a judge. They observe data, not drama. This week I skipped my workouts 3 times. Why? What changed? How can I design better support next week? Over time, this habit of self-questioning builds clarity and confidence. You stop fearing failure. You start seeing it as feedback. You stop waiting for permission. You start giving yourself direction. And you stop wondering if you're capable. You start proving it to yourself, one consistent act at a time. This leads us to the long-term reward of self-accountability, self-trust. The ability to believe in your own follow-through. The quiet confidence that comes from knowing, if I say I'll do it, I will. That is one of the most powerful beliefs a person can carry, and it's earned through hundreds of invisible choices each day. And here's what's beautiful. Self-accountability is contagious. When you lead yourself well, others take notice. You become a source of integrity and strength for your team, your family, your friends. People begin to trust your word because they see how much you trust it. you model consistency. And that consistency becomes a quiet but powerful form of leadership. Another vital benefit of developing self-accountability is the internal shift in how you process discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort. By default, it's a protective instinct. But those who are self-accountable learn to lean into discomfort as a signal, not a stop sign. They recognize that most meaningful progress lies just beyond the edge of their comfort zone. Whether it's having that difficult conversation, sticking to a habit when it's inconvenient, or showing up when no one is applauding, discomfort becomes a compass for growth. Furthermore, becoming self-accountable gives you agency. It brings you out of victimhood and into authorship. When you stop waiting for better circumstances, better timing, or better luck, and start acting with purpose despite uncertainty, you reclaim the pen and begin rewriting the story of your life. And this process compounds. Self-accountability leads to better habits, better decisions, stronger boundaries, and deeper self-respect. Over time, it changes your trajectory. You no longer feel at the mercy of life. You realize that while you can't control everything, you always control your response, and that makes all the difference. To become self-accountable is to become your own guide, coach, and honest friend. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it is liberating. Because once you realize that your life is shaped by what you choose to do, not just what happens to you, you become powerful in a way that can't be taken away. In the end, the goal is to no longer need external pressure to act. Not because accountability isn't useful, it absolutely is, but because you've integrated the essence of it into your being. You don't just have discipline. You are disciplined. You don't just follow through because others are watching. You do it because your word to yourself matters more than anything. And when that happens, when you become someone who leads yourself with clarity, honesty, and consistent follow-through, that's when accountability becomes unshakable. Not a burden, but a freedom. A path to becoming who you were always capable of being. If there's one thing this journey has revealed, it's that discipline is not built in isolation. It may begin with you, your choices, your self-awareness, your drive to improve, but it grows stronger when rooted in connection. Accountability is the bridge that turns intention into action and action into habit. And while self-accountability is the foundation, shared accountability is the scaffolding that keeps you standing tall when you feel shaky. The truth is, none of us are immune to doubt, distraction, or discouragement. Even the most disciplined people face moments of weakness. What separates them isn't willpower alone, it's the systems and support they've chosen to embrace. They've cultivated accountability not as a crutch, but as a commitment to consistency. They've surrounded themselves with people and practices that pull them forward, even when motivation fades. Think about the most disciplined version of yourself. That version doesn't just show up on the good days, it rises on the hard days. It chooses to honor the goal, not just the mood. It finds strength in structure and freedom in follow-through. And when the path feels overwhelming, that version reaches for support, not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of wisdom. You were never meant to do this alone. Whether it's a coach, a mentor, a friend, or a well-designed self-accountability system, discipline thrives in an environment where progress is witnessed, celebrated, and challenged. The presence of accountability in any form reinforces that your effort matters, that your word has weight, and that your growth is not invisible. And as you commit to holding yourself accountable, you inspire others to do the same. You become a beacon of consistency in a world that often glamorizes shortcuts. You show, through action, that lasting change is possible not through perfection, but through persistence, not through pressure, but through principle. This is the power of accountability. It doesn't just help you become more disciplined, it helps you become more trustworthy, more grounded, and more aligned with your purpose. It's not about control, it's about commitment. It's not about punishment, it's about partnership between you and your goals, between you and the people who walk beside you. So as you move forward, carry this with you. The discipline you build is not just for you. It's a gift to your future, a gift to your team, a gift to the world. Every promise you keep to yourself adds to the integrity of your character and the clarity of your path. Own your word. Lead yourself well. And whenever the road gets tough, remember, you don't have to do it alone, but you do have to show up. Again, and again, and again. That's how unbreakable discipline is built, not in a moment of strength, but in a lifetime of choosing to keep going. And that choice? It's yours. Always has been. Always will be.